So the first thing we need to know for the test is we need to know how to solve equations with fractions. That's what we were just doing here in the last hour. That was these lovely things like this. The next thing we need to be able to do is the complex fractions. Or order of operations. Some examples of that might look like this. Something like that. So order of operations, there are no enclosing symbols. The parentheses here do not enclose anything. They're just separating out the 2/5. There is an exponent. So to do a fraction to a power, remember, we take each piece. 2 to the power of 3 is 8, right? 2 times 2 times 2. 5 to the power of 3 is 125. The rest of the problem stays the same. Now what? I'm going to multiply. I can cross cancel the 4 and 8. It gives me 2 and 1. So 3 times 2 is 6. 1 times 125 is 125. Well, unfortunately, now I have to add the least common denominator is 375. It was 3 times 125. I'm going to write this one out vertically. Three times 125 is 375. So 2 times 125 is 250. 125 times 3 is 375. So 6 times 3 is 18. $250 plus 18 is 268 over 375. That cannot be reduced. So the answer would be 268 over 375. It might not get quite that ugly on a test. Or we might have something like this. 2/3 plus 3/4 over 1 3/4 times 5/6. Well, again, we're going to add on top first. 2/3 plus 3/4 is 1 5/12. I'll let you guys do the numbers to confirm that. Then we have to do what's on bottom. 1 3/4 times 5/6 is 1 13/24. No, 1 11/24, I should say. It's 7/4 times 5/6 is 35/24. So then you got to divide that out. That's 1 5/12 divided by 1 11/24. This is 17/12 divided by 35/24, which is 17/12 times 24 35ths, 12 and 24 are both divided by 12, giving me 1 and 2. 17 times 2 is 34. 1 times 35 is 35, so 34 35ths. So any questions on those types of problems? Okay, of course there will be word problems. There will be factoring problems. If I ask you to factor $60 x to the third p squared, that's where you would do the factor tree. 60 divides by 10, 6 would be left over. 10 splits into 2 times 5. Those are prime. 6 splits into 2 times 3. Those are prime. So that's 2 times 2 times 3 times 5 times x times x times x. X to the third is just 3 x's. And p squared is just 2 p's. You could write it like that. Or, since it's 2 times 2, you could write it as 2 squared times 3 times 5 times x to the third times p squared. Either one of those would be correct. I'm glad this one came up. Find the LCM, the least common multiple. If I give you a pair of numbers, like 12 x to the third y and 16 x squared y squared. Well, I'm going to start out with the 12 and the 16 just to find the numbers. If you did the factor tree on 12, 2 times 2 times 3. If you did 16, it's 4 2's. So there's a 2 in common. There's another 2 in common. Up here, there's a 3 that's not circled, so I'm going to put a 3 down here. Down here, there's 2 2's that are not circled, so I'm going to put 2 2's up there. So this is 12 times 2 is 24 times another 2 is 48. This is 16 times 3 is 48. So 48 is the numerical part. What do we do with the variables? There you go. X to the third, y to the second. It's the largest power. So we've got x to the third and x squared, so x to the third is the bigger one. We have y and y squared. Well, y squared or y to the second is the bigger one. We have our operations with the variables and the fractions that we did to start off the day. Remember these lovely things? Multiplying, dividing, adding and subtracting, and even powers of the fractions with variables in them. We also had ratios and proportions. So if I give you something like x plus 3 over 25 equals 12 over 15, and I ask you to find the missing number, or find x, here you would cross multiply. 25 times 12 is 300. X plus 3 times 15 is 15 times x plus 3. 15 times x is 15x. 15 times 3 plus 45. That has to equal the 300. So then what? You subtract the 45. So 15x equals 255. Divide by 15. X equals 17, I believe. Those look familiar? You'll need to be able to reduce something like 12/30ths. How would I reduce that? They both divide by 6, giving me 2/5, right? Might be asked to convert to a mixed number or write as a mixed number. If I give you something like 27/4, where's 27 divided by 4? 4 goes into 27 6 times, that would be 24. Remainder of 3, so it's 6 3/4. You might be asked to convert to an improper fraction. If I give you something like 7 3/5, what am I going to do? 7 times 5 is 35. Add that to the 3 is 38, and it is still fifths. 38 fifths. Then, of course, operations with fractions and mixed numbers. Now, I'm not going to do examples of these, but of course you guys know add, subtract, multiply, divide. And I will make this statement. I like having you do them out longhand. I'm not going to take off points if you don't. But even if you do them out on paper and you do them out long by hand on paper, please double check them with your calculator. Because this is one spot where students lose a lot of points every semester, and there's no reason for it because your calculator will do them. So you just do at least double check them to make sure. And if you got them wrong, the worst can happen is you go back and redo it by hand. Like I said, I'm not marking you down if you don't show your work. So if you do just use the calculator, that is fine. But at the very least, use the calculator to double check them. We are going to have you solve some basic equations without fractions in them. There will be some with the fractions again, as we said earlier. This is one, solving basic equations is going to be on every test from here to eternity, pretty much. That's one of our big concepts. Okay, so I kind of rushed through some of that stuff because I do want to take a look at some of our word problems. So let's say I have a rectangle with area of 64 square inches. is 4 inches wide. Find the length. Well, this one is just a formula. What is the formula for the area of a rectangle? Length times width or base times height, either one, depending on how you're looking at it. Do we know the A? Is 64 square inches or just 64? Do we know L? That is what we're looking for. Do we know W? It is 4 inches or just 4. So how do we solve that? We divide by 4. So 16 equals L or 16 inches. What's that? Yeah. Okay. A rectangle with perimeter of 148 feet has a length of 48 feet find the width. So now remember, perimeter is 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. Do we know P? 148 equals 2 times, do we know L? 40 plus 2 times, do we know W? No, that is what we're looking for, is the width. What do we do next? We combine the 48 times 2 is 96. Everything else stays the same. And then subtract the 96. 52 equals 2W, and then divide by 2. Very good. 26 is W. So it's 26 feet now. Let's say for the summer you spend, oh, let's see, how many days of class are there here? 32. Let's say you spend 73 hours doing homework. You done that much already? Ouch. If you average 18 and 2/3 problems, now that's math problems, not difficulties with the math problems, per hour, how many problems did you do? So did you complete? Oftentimes when you look at a problem like this, it helps to look at it in smaller numbers. If you work for 1 hour, how many problems would that be? 18 and 2/3. Very good. So if you work for 2 hours, yeah, it's times 2. 18 and 2/3 times 2. Or 37 and 1/3 problems. So what am I going to do with the 73 hours? Multiply by 73. Very good. Now I'm not going to actually multiply that out. I'll leave that up to you guys to do. Well, maybe I will in just a second. The biggest problem we end up with in that one is a lot of people see that and they'll do 73 divided by 18 2/3. But by doing this little piece right here, it becomes very obvious that it has to be multiplied. So I'm just going to give you that warning. So let's do the 18 2/3 times 73. 18 times 3 is 54, plus 2 is 56, over 3 times 73 over 1. 56 times 73. Little hamster ain't working today, so we're going to cheat. 4,088. 3 times 1 is 3. So that is 1,362 2/3. That's probably about right for the summer. About 1,300 problems is about. You probably do more than that. Now, one last example, then I'll let you guys out of here, unless there's questions. A rectangle is 7x minus 3 units long and 4x plus 9 units wide. Write an expression for the perimeter. But remember, perimeter is 2 times the length plus 2 times the width, right? So our expression for the perimeter is going to be 2 times, what's the length? 7x minus 3 plus 2 times, what's the width? 4x plus 9. Now, if you stop there, that would be acceptable. But it would be better if you continued and distributed 2 times 7x, 14x, 2 times negative 3, negative 6. Now in the next one, 2 times 4x, positive 8x, and 2 times 9 is 18. Again, if you stop there, I wouldn't mark it wrong, but there's a next step that you could go. 14x and 18x is 22x. Negative 6 and 18 is positive 12. So the perimeter is 22x plus 12. Okay, I think you guys have had more than enough for the day. Remember, there is a new quiz. It was originally due tonight at 11:59 p.m., but I did extend that to Wednesday night. That's quiz 6. Quiz 5 I also reopened, and I added attempts to it. That is also open until Wednesday night at 11:59 p.m. And of course, there is a new homework due for Thursday. And again, the old homeworks, if you didn't have time to finish them up because of the My Math Lab malfunction, you can go ahead and work on them. It'll tell you there's a late penalty. Don't worry about it. I will fix that when I transfer them over to Blackboard on Thursday. And then, of course, remember, Thursday is the big test. And then also on Thursday, there's that extra credit quiz. Nice try. I'll buy lunch on Friday. How's that sound? So the extra credit quiz. Okay, well, you guys have a great day. Like I said, the tests will be available early, so you can come in as early as the school is open for you to start on that test on Thursday if you want. We will start lecturing probably at about 10:30 to 10:45 again.